Good morning, chili dogs. What you focus on grows. Feed them horses. Alright, guys. We got 3 more pots coming your guys' way. I'm gonna get over there in a second. We're getting closer and closer. You know, June is going by real quick. July is on its way. In July, we're at a year, so you know, we'll make it. So I'm pretty excited about that, right? But anyway, I'll see you guys in a second. Oh, wow! Look, I was so ahead of the game that I had so much power that I sucked all the battery life out. Set our first bat down. Add some water on there. Take this. I usually just get off all that dust. That's why I never clean my bats, because you can usually just take off all the clay chunks on the bats just with your little knife tool there. Anyway, we're gonna grab our first chunk, right? And so here we go. Camera B. Why does everybody again with the names? Sure. Claudio, I hope you're doing well. Alright, so here. Bring that around, and you slowly bring this down, right? Wherever it starts to wobble, you're going to lower that right hand down. And you push this down. But I'm making trees, so that's what I'm doing right now. Bring this down. I push this up. Camera B. Llamas love volcanoes, right? So this is a llama. Llama bites down, and it's those 2 lanes of traffic that push and pull, and that's what's giving you that thing. Keep spirit up, my friend. Love from China. Ah, thank you. There's thank you, xie xie in Chinese. I'm not sure. Any tips for people wanting to start pottery? Yeah, I think that you know, when I've started pottery, I think I was really trying to hide my lack of throwing with little designs, right? I did a lot of facial features and sculpted elements on my pots, and I think it was really because I was insecure about the actual forms themselves, right? And so I think after I sort of understood and came to the realization that I was hiding my inconsistencies, then I got a whole lot better at throwing. Anyway, it's getting a little bit wobbly, so you can kind of see that little wobble popping through. That's okay. 3, 4. Set that down. Somebody dropped some fire emojis in the chat. Thank you. I'm going to slowly bring this out and go a little bit wider and slowly take this up. Alright, sweet. And so that's spinning and that's spreading out, right? This is why I call them the tree forms, right? I always think this kind of looks like a tree top. Right now it's a little bit thin, so it might tear. So I'm going to hurry up and I'm going to start addressing this bottom. This bottom is where people will slowly get rid of this, right? Or slowly want to take this off and trim it off, right? But for me, like, this is where all the potential is on the pots, right? And so I always like to say that, you know, most potters will cut this stuff off, but I don't trim, right? So I throw the bottoms really, really thin, so I allow there to be this extra thickness on this bottom edge here. I'll slowly take that up, right? Somebody asked me, how's my day? My day was cool. And so I had some really interesting things on my Instagram story. You'll see that one of my students did this one where they made a face, and on the face, in like the nose of the head, they had this. This is the petals, by the way. They had like straws coming out of the nose that poked holes, and so after you fill the cup up with enough liquid, all of a sudden, all right, camera C. All of a sudden, that the nose would. Hold on, I gotta tip this over for a second. There we go. might totally dip down. But the nose would drip out into another cup that had its mouth open, right? And the tongue was on the inside of the cup. So it was kind of funny. So I'm gonna slowly bring this up. All right, camera C. And so you guys can see what I'm doing from my point of view here. All right, so I bring that around, catch it, and then I slowly walk my right hand up the side. And I have that tilted, and the clay, if there's no clay underneath of it, right, it's really gonna wanna go straight down, right? All right, anyway, I'm pushing this down on the inside here. You gotta always fill up the pond. You can't have the tadpoles dry out, right? And I'm always hooking my fingers. You know, I kind of always think of Captain Hook from Peter Pan, and I'm cutting through this bottom edge here. I'm not pushing the clay, I'm cutting through that clay. I like it when it feels like butter that you left out overnight. Little llama here, so llama's bouncing around, right? We're gonna go over to camera B. Camera B. So here's llama. Llama bites down. You know what the llama loves? Llama loves volcanoes. So we're gonna slowly bring this up. All right, sweet. And so here we go. We got the volcano. Have some water on the inside there. What are we making? A dog bowl? No, we're making a tree. How many times do I mess up? I might mess up right here. Who knows? I mess up pretty often though. I feel like if you're not messing up, right, every once in a while, then you're living in your comfort zone, right? I think the best thing that you can do, I think, for getting better in pottery is to live in an uncomfortable zone, right? When the clay starts acting weird, or like it makes you nervous when you're throwing with it, right? That's when pottery's at its best, right? And that's when you learn the most too, right? All right, so we're gonna do that pole right there. All right, we got it. We're just gonna slowly walk up the spiral, right, guys? And you can kind of see that twist starting to form. As soon as you get that, we're looking good. Okay, a little bit of water on the inside. And slowly start pulling this outward, right? And I slowly raise my fingers up. And I kiss the rim. And there you go, I got a tree. If I would have known that this one was going to collapse like this, I probably would have done 2 long tendrils. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll have the tendrils launch in and reach into the interior. But I also like how when the rim dips down, it gives it a direction, right? That it almost looks like it's looking. And then sometimes too, you also get to see that interior spiral that's on the interior, right? Because normally, you know, you don't really get to see that stuff, but now that it's almost like peeking at you, it's looking towards you, right? I think it's kind of interesting. There, some of them are falling, right? Some of them have like this cool little double twist, right? And so every single one is kind of like a little bit different, right? Sometimes the tendrils go over top. Sometimes I open out the top all the way wide, right? Sometimes they're really uniform and a little bit more mundane. Sometimes I have like a nice little spiral on the bottom and then a small tree on the top. And so that's kind of my mindset with a lot of them, is just having them exist, right? I think of them as songs in an album, right? What a waste of space. Oh, wait until you see this. All right, camera A. Camera A. All right, all the best and strong mentality. Can you give some deep advice on what to do with my life? Oh, the first thing that you need to do is you need to find a necessity, right? Like you need to find something that that drives you forward no matter what, right? And so sometimes, you know, it can be something very subtle that you kind of overlook, right? But then what I'd recommend you do is, a lot of people, once they find that thing, they do it in short bursts and in high intensity, right? And I was like that for the longest time. Right, I'd sit down, I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna stay for 24 hours and see how many pots I can make, right? But then I realized what makes you you is what you do every single day, right? And so long, intense, like I think most people think in like weeks, days, and months, but I think when you start thinking about it in decade and years, right? Like that's where real value starts to grow. Like that's where you get confidence, right? Confidence for some people is innate, right? For me, it's not innate, right? Confidence is built for me, right? And so that's some of my advice for you then. If you're really lost, you gotta pick something and you just gotta keep attacking it. Be that unrelenting force. Somebody said I'm Harry Potter. That's so funny. Take care of those ends. Yeah, my hair. Yeah, I do a really bad job taking care of my hair. Guys, it's really okay. So like this is John, like John's a perfect example of people that you're gonna meet in your life, right? And so like what I would say is you got to be the biggest defender of what you allow into your brain, right? Like you can't allow that negativity to fester in your brain from other people, right? Like you only have so much in your mental CPU that you can do. Some have more mental CPU than others, but me, I don't have a lot. So I've learned that I can't even let those types of people like enter my brain, right? Because as soon as they have any dominion over how you're thinking about your life, right? They control you, right? They own your brain. So don't let those people control your brain, you know? Um, Here I am, guys. Like, isn't this cool? I always think it's kind of fun. I'm like at the size of my trees here, doing some dancing to some Donkey Kong country music. So wild. But anyway, we'll start over with this one. This is the one that I just finished. This one I really like when the tendrils start functioning less as pattern and more as appendages, right? I think I could have done a little bit of a better job on the top. I think I could have gone maybe a little bit wider too, and I think that the tendrils on this one, even though I did a double tendril appendage, I don't really feel like they're emoting human emotion with them, right? I like when the top is resting on them, or it feels like they're pulling something down. So that's something I would say about that one. This one, you can kind of see what I mean when they start to collapse and that rim starts acting as a framing device. I was talking a little bit about that earlier, but that twist on the interior, I think a lot of times people, if they just see the silhouette of the object, they're not going to be compelled to look on the interior. So I really like when that dips down, that rim starts acting as a framing device for the spiral on the interior. Something that Potter once told me is the sign of a potter, a good potter. I don't know if I'd call myself a potter even, but it's someone who pays attention to things that you don't see apparent, right? And so the bottom of a vessel, right, the foot is something that a lot of people focus on, right? And so in the same way, the interior space is usually not really considered, right? Because it's going to be filled with something. Well, these aren't really going to be filled with anything. So my way of considering the pod is to address that interior space. Anyway, we got the one on the top, and so you can see when a tipped over one is flipped to the other side, and I really like how you can kind of see those underneath the veins of the tree there. I think it's kind of interesting. And so I also did petals on that one. I had 4 petals, and they're pretty large petals, so I actually kind of like it. I think it's good to have some of those pots. They help give more context to the album of pots.